Hi guys, it's Blackie. Okay, continuing with the axe files. First, let me apologize. I got a bunch of blue jays nesting right here in these trees around my little area. So they're squawking up a storm, so I'm sorry about that. Alright, today for the axe files, let's talk about the handle. And a small part of the head, but the handle is what we're talking about right now. You're going to go select an axe at the hardware store or whatever for your first axe. I do not recommend you spend a lot of money on your very first axe. Actually, I recommend that you go find one at a yard sale or something that looks to be in decent shape and start with it, because if you ain't got the skills, you're probably going to bust a handle. You're probably going to ding up a head. You've got to have a learning curve, and I would rather have a learning curve on a $10 axe than a $190 axe. Once you get a little bit of skill and a knowledge, then go for the higher quality. Same thing, if I'm going to buy you a very first car, you've never ever driven a car, I'm going to buy a piece of junk secondhand car, because you're probably going to wreck it. You're going to make some dumb mistake. Well, that's true in any kind of tool, especially something that you're swinging or utilizing in such a way. So we want to take and learn the skill that's necessary to make this work, and you're probably going to have some mistakes. So therefore, save the money until you get the skill, then buy good. Cry once, be done, okay? So, having said that, you're going to go pick up an axe. You're looking at a group of axes up for sale. Now, one of the things that you're looking for is you look at the end grain. You want the end grain of the wood to be vertical or close to it. It don't have to be exact, but you do not want it horizontal on an axe. You want it vertical, okay? Because as it hits, it would split, what's called delaminate. We want them edge on like that, so they're all hitting together instead of sideways where they can separate. So we want that grain vertical. Look on the end back here and make sure it's relatively vertical. The other thing is you want to look at the eye and make sure it's well seated all the way around. If there's any big old gaps, it's got a wedge in it, and the wedge appears to be well fitted in. You want to look on this side and make sure, again, it's tight on the bottom all the way around. Now, holding the axe, make sure that the head is level to the handle. Now, like this one, it's got a little bit of a design thing, but you shouldn't have the handle like this and the handle at this angle and the axe head at that angle, where it's crooked on the actual handle. Okay, make sure it's relatively squared up on the handle. Next, how does the handle grain look? You want to look at it. Now, on this particular axe, I doubt if you can see it, but I'm hoping you can. Right along here, you see the marks of where that's the end of a piece of grain coming out, and it kind of stops right there and it keeps going on. Okay, make sure that is smooth and there is no checking to it. It doesn't feel any structure to it, because as I use this axe, and remember, I'm sliding my hand up, I slide my hand up, I bring it down, boom, I slide my hand up, I bring it down. My hand's going to be sliding on this thing a lot. And if that grain rose up, I'm going to go chunk, and I got a splinter, or I got an axe cut because of that grain. So make sure that grain is tight. There's no, looks like it's about to crack and come up. That could be bad. If you've got a handle that minor seems to start popping up, I recommend you put it, flex it, and try to get a little super glue up under it and put some pressure to it. If you can't fix it that way and you can't sand it smooth, change handles, because it's going to end up biting you. You're going to go to slide up and you're going to slam a splinter into the web of the hand or something like that. And most of the guys that use axes for a living will tell you that, you know, they'll have these big scars on the hands where a handle's checked out and they right into it. So therefore, you got to check on it, okay? Next, the finish of the handle. When you go buy an axe at the hardware store, it's got this polyurethane or lacquer type stuff on it. That's not good, because what that does is it preserves and protects the handle, but it makes it, whenever you go to utilize it, it rubs blisters like crazy, because it doesn't allow the hand to slide naturally on the handle. It kind of grabs in places. So you'll get up there and you go to swing, and you'll start getting along your knuckles and stuff like that, because it's actually tugging on impact. So therefore, You want to sand that off. You can use stripper if you want to and strip it down. Once you get to bare wood, sand it down till it is butter butt smooth. Take a wet paper towel, 2 or 3 of them, or a wet cloth, wipe down, and this will cause the grain to stand back up. Sand it down a second time. Do this 3 or 4 times until the grain stops standing up and it's nice and smooth. Now you want to apply your finish. I personally like boiled linseed oil. And what I do is I go get the ones in the art department where you do oil painting for like canvas and stuff. And there'll be a small bottle, and that's a little more refined than the average boiled linseed oil. And I like it better. It penetrates better. I use this to make gun grips and things like that, and refinish stocks with it. So I do the same thing on these. I simply put a couple of drops on there and start rubbing it in until it disappears. I'll keep doing that. I'll probably put one good heavy coat on it and let it soak into the wood, and I'll put another heavy coat on it and let it soak into the wood. When I put it up there and it soaks in but it doesn't completely disappear automatic, I'll let the axe dry overnight, and I'm going to come back and do like I'm talking. Put drops, rub them in. Put drops, rub them in. I'm going to do this every night when I come home from work for probably 2 or 3 weeks to get that oiled finish into the wood. Not just on the surface, but into the wood. This preserves the handle. It also allows the handle to flex naturally, so it will last longer. I keep it from being atmospherically affected, where if humidity goes up, the wood doesn't swell up as much. Things like that. It also keeps the salt and stuff from my hand from impregnating into the wood and causing deterioration. Now, for the head, or for the handle for that matter, after I've done this, I'm going to be putting this axe up because the season's changed or whatever, and I'm not going to be using this axe for a couple of months. What am I going to do? Well, if it's where I can see it all the time, I'll just give it a good wipe down with some good oil on the head, and I'll give the axe handle a good rub down with more of that little oil, make sure it's good and clean. But what if I'm storing it someplace else, like a storage building or something like that? It's going to be hot or something like that. Well, then I'm going to go to a wax. Now, I'm cheap. I use plain old car wax. I don't put the wax onto the handle. I put the wax onto the head, okay? I want to put a good layer onto the head because that will protect the head from rusting. And when I pick it back up, it just start using it. You ain't got to wipe it off. The using will just wipe this off. And so when I go to chopping wood, I don't have to come and strip something off or whatever. I just take and do a good rub down of the head, and then I put it up for storage. I prefer, and I'm going to drill a hole in this one, I prefer to hang my axes, okay, like this. If you store an axe standing up and it's leaning at any angle, this handle can bend over time. That's another thing when you go to pick up an axe, is stand it up and look down at it and make sure the handle's straight and the handle isn't curving or whatever, because that can cause you trouble. So I want this to be straight. When I hang my axe, I will hang it by the handle like that. If I do not want to drill a hole in it, I'll just simply make a loop, like a Prusik loop, go over here, hook it, and hang it on a hook. So now I can take on and off easily and have it quick and easy in the field. But for a field axe, I prefer to go ahead and put a hole in here, a small one, that I can put a loop of bank line in, so I can hang it up on a limb at camp or whatever that, to get it up off the ground. I don't want to leave it on the ground. The worst thing you can ever do when you get done using an axe turn around, stick it in the ground. It looks cool in movies. It don't work good in real life, because if that edge hits the dirt, you're dulling it. Just think of it like ice melting. You're putting it on a hot rock. Stop melting it. So I want to be able to hang my axes up. So, in conclusion, when you go to get you an axe, you're picking out your axe at the local thrift store, or if you're somebody's got one they said you want to do, what am I looking for? First, is the handle completely intact? 2, is the head on there correctly? 3, is it square to the handle? 4, is the handle smooth and not checked or messed up? 5, is the grain going in the correct direction and the handle isn't twisted or warped in any way? 6, is the head not messed up, got big dings out of it and everything else? That could be a problem. All of that is what you pick out first, and then you treat and care for the axe. It will last a lifetime. Now you're going to see some references when you're looking at that I have seen of people who work for a living with an axe, like putwooders, and they do lumber. I mean, they do timber and stuff like that, and they talk about putting like WD-40 on an axe handle or something like that. Those guys are planning on putting a new handle in every year. They're coating them with that kind of oil to keep the sap and everything else off of them and what they're doing. And these are almost a disposable tool. They will simply coat the handle in an oil like that. They don't care it's going to destroy the wood over long term, because they're going to use that axe probably for a season. At the end of the season, they're going to knock the handle out of it and break it, throw it away or whatever, and put a fresh handle in it every year, because they will use them so much over the course of a year that they will wear the handle out. It will be cracked, checked, just where you don't want it anymore. They want another handle anyway. That's what you're going to see in those type videos. Hope this gives you some ideas, guys. Please leave some questions or comments below, and thank you very much for being supportive of this channel. There'll be a lot more coming in this series. Till next time, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.